Hi, this is Steve Good with the Scroll Saw Workshop. In this slideshow video that I'm putting together tonight, I'm going to give you complete instructions on how to complete the scroll saw vases that I have made available on my website, and that's www.scrollsawworkshop.blogspot.com. This book that's available will have 8 different vase patterns in it, including this small 5-inch vase up to 10-inch vases. The book is available for $12, and you will be able to download it as an instant download after you make your purchase. All you have to do is go to my blog and look for the book, and you can buy it there. So what I want to do here tonight is go through a series of slides and talk to you about how I put these together. In this case, we're going to be building the Ariel, which is a small bud vase. And you'll start out, after you download the pattern, go ahead and cut out the 3 pieces for this particular vase, and it'll be the same on all the patterns. The technique's the same. In this case, you can see that once I cut out the pattern, I'm going to go ahead and cut it off right at the very bottom, because we're going to use the bottom of a piece of wood as a straight edge for the flat part of our vase. So get the patterns all cut out. Go ahead and prepare your wood, and for these vases you'll need different sizes. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'll give you a rough idea here. This piece of wood, which is cherry, happens to be 1 inch thick, and I think 1 inch thick is about the minimum. 1/4 inch is a little small. Maybe for this small vase you could get by with 3/4 inch, but in this case the 1 inch looks a little better. And then I've got a couple of pieces of bubinga for the front and back of the vase, and they happen to be 1/4 inch thick. When you get up into the 10-inch size vases, you can make each of these a little bit thicker. You can maybe go to 3/8 of an inch for the front and back, and 1 1/4 inch thick for the middle. Go ahead and prepare your wood blanks with the painter's tape. Again, the painter's tape just makes it easier to get the patterns off when you're finished cutting. It also helps lubricate the scroll saw blade and prevents the blade from heating up and burning the wood. So I always use the blue painter's tape on everything I cut. You can see when I used the spray adhesive to spray the back of the pattern and apply it to wood, I went ahead and put the bottom of the vase right on the bottom of the piece of wood. So you want to have this cut off nice and flat. It's time to take the front of the vase over to your drill press or your drill or whatever you're going to use to drill the entry holes, and go ahead and drill an entry hole for every interior cut. On these pieces right here, go ahead and start your entry hole right at the very beginning of each one, and that way you can cover up the hole by cutting away from it. So get all your interior holes drilled. And now we're going to start out with the thickest piece of wood, and I'm using a number 7 scroll reverse blade here. And one trick that will make this project easier to put together for you is this is a good time to practice cutting on the line or outside the line or inside the line. In this case, we're going to have to sand all 3 of these pieces flush when we get them assembled. So what I'm doing right here is I'm cutting right on the line for this center piece of the pattern. And I'm going to do that all the way around on the outside. Now the inside doesn't matter because you're not going to see it, so you can vary off of it a little bit, but stay close. But in this case, on the center piece, I'm going to cut right on the line. And there's the centerpiece completed. You'll notice we have a very thick bottom, and that's just to help weight the vase on the bottom so it doesn't tip over quite so easy. You'll never see it, so it doesn't matter. Now you can see here I'm starting to cut out the back of the vase in the 1/4 inch thick wood, and I'm cutting just outside the line. And the reason I'm doing that is because when I glue all 3 of these pieces together, I'm going to sand the edges flush so you don't see any seams, and I'll only have to sand the 1/4 inch thick wood if it's a little bit outside the center. So I'm going to cut just on the outside of the wood for the front and the back. Okay, here I've got the front cut out, and you can see I'm just outside the line all the way around here, and I've started to cut out all the interior cuts. Finished cutting all the pieces. I've got them back over on my workbench, and I'm going to go ahead and remove the pattern, and you can see here that with the blue painter's tape it just peels right up. Go ahead and sand the fuzzies off all the pieces, and we're going to do a lot of sanding on this project, so get ready for it. Okay, now I've taken the center piece and I've buttered it up with a good amount of glue here. We're going to get a little bit of squeeze out, and don't worry about that because we're going to sand it off flush anyway. Here I've got the front applied to the center piece, and I've flipped it over, and I'm going to butter up the second side and apply the back. After you get everything all glued up, go ahead and start applying your clamps. And when you do this, you want to make sure that you're as even as you possibly can be around here, realizing that the front and back are going to be slightly oversized from the center. Here I've got everything all glued up and the glue's dried. And again, you can see back here that I've got this little bitty ridge right here from where I've oversized the front and back. And we're getting ready to take care of that. Okay, if you have a spindle sander, or if you put one of these drum sanders in your drill press, it makes sanding these edges down much easier. Now, I will often take some 80 grit sandpaper, which is very rough, and do an initial sanding on this just to get the glue off and just start to, shape it up a little bit. And then I'll come over to my drum sander. I happen to have a spindle sander, which I use, but this works just as well. And you're going to just go around these edges until you get everything perfectly flush. When you get done, you don't want to feel any ridges anywhere along here. You want these to be perfectly smooth, and that's very important. Okay, you can see that you want to fit the drum sander that you have to whatever pattern you happen to be doing. Some of them are easier than others. This one's very easy to sand. A couple of them have kind of right angles in them, and you'll have to get into those with some sandpaper and do some hand sanding also. This one can almost all be done with machine sanding. Okay, here I've got all the edges flushed up really good. And I've got some sandpaper here on the table, and this is one way you can do it, and I'll show you another way here in the middle. But what we're going to do is we're going to make sure the bottom is totally flat. So I'm going to rub this vase along this sandpaper until I get the bottom completely flat. Then I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing with the top. At the same time here, you can do a little bit more finish sanding with your sandpaper if you need to. If you happen to have a disc sander, the job's a lot easier. You want to go over to your disc sander and flatten the top and the bottom. You want to be careful though, because when you're doing the bottom, you want to make sure that it's actually flat and that the vase still stands up straight. So you got to be a little careful. The next step, and this is probably the most important step of the project, when we get done, we want to have a really nice round over around every edge from here to here. You don't want to round over the top. You don't want to round over the bottom, just the sides. And you're going to do that on the front and back. Now, I'm using a 1/2 inch round over bit in my router table, and I'm not exposing the whole bit. Basically, when you start the round over, and you want to practice this a little bit on some scrap, but you want the round over to end right about where the seam starts. So I'm going to use a router table. Once you get it all rounded out, you're going to have some burn marks, and it's not going to be perfectly even. You might get a little bit of tear out. Especially on this one because I use Bubinga, and it happens to tear out pretty easy. Go ahead and do some hand sanding and get all this smoothed out really good. Get rid of your burn marks. Also, in this particular case, when I was using my router table, I chipped out the very top where the Bubinga was because it tends to want to break anyway. So what I just did is I went over and just rounded it over until I got rid of whatever tore out. Very easy to fix, and you may have to do that on some of your projects. You also could have put a backer board right here as you moved it through the router, and that would have helped prevent it. If you don't have a router table, obviously you can use a hand router to round this over. Make sure you use a tack cloth on the bottom, to put your piece on so it doesn't move on you. But if you have to hand route it, that's one way to go about it. Another thing you can do, although it's a lot harder and takes a lot more time, is you can actually sand this curve in here, or this round over. You have to work on it quite a bit, and you want to make sure you get it as smooth as possible. So I highly recommend a router, but if you don't have one, don't give up. You can still do it. It just takes more time. My process for finishing may not be what you use. Once you get to this point, you can finish this vase any way you like. This just happens to be a tub of lemon oil, And the only reason I use this is because it's very quick to get the beauty of the wood showing, and I can get the inside of the vase coated with this lemon oil, which just helps make it pretty, and you see it through the holes, so I wanted the inside to be coated. So I just give it a quick dip in a pan of lemon oil. I take it over to my spraying station, and I'm just going to set it on this paper towel and let it drip dry for probably an hour. The lemon oil evaporates fairly quickly, so rub it down with your paper towels to get all the excess off, and then let it drip dry until it's dry. The next step is to use whatever finish you like to use on projects. In this case, I'm going to use some Krylon Crystal Clear Gloss Spray, and I have pretty good luck with that. Sometimes I'll start it out with the clear instead of the gloss, and then go over it with the last coat with the gloss, just so I can build it up a little bit. So give it a nice finish however you like to finish it. And that's basically all there is to making these projects. Again, there'll be 8 different vases of different sizes and styles in the pattern book. They can all be changed a great deal when you make them, because you can use different woods on the front and the center for nice contrast, like I did here with the bubinga and the cherry. You can use lighter wood on the outside, whatever you want to do. There's also some other techniques that I'll be working on for the next book, where we'll actually do some inlays using some inlay products inside the cutouts, and I think that'll look really cool too. So anyway, there's the project that we were just talking about. This is the smallest of the vases. Again, it's only 5 inches tall, but it's very easy to make. Very fun project that I think a lot of you will like to do. You can find this book at www.scrollsawworkshop.blogspot.com. Thanks for taking a look, and we'll see you next time here at the Scroll Saw Workshop.